Good afternoon, I'm Anthony Lugg with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Up first this afternoon, the St. James Municipal Corporation says the physical assault incident involving a security guard and a female vendor at the Charles Gordon Market in Montego Bay, St. James last Friday is now a legal matter which will be finalized in court. Chairman of the corporation, Leroy Williams, yesterday led a meeting with representatives of Guardsman Limited. Mr. Williams says during the meeting, the Guardsman Limited representatives outlined that the security guard has been removed from duties relating to the St. James Municipal Corporation pending further investigations. He says reports of the incident were submitted by both the Guardsman Limited and the security guard, while a written account of the altercation will be requested from the vendor. Mr. Williams says, as requested, a report on the matter has been submitted to the Ministry of Local Government. The vendor, Pauline Higgins, reported that she was beaten on her leg with a piece of board after she was slow in leaving the market as ordered by the security guard. The incident occurred sometime after 8 p.m. Praises are still rising for the police officers who responded to a shooting incident on Old Hope Road on Monday afternoon. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang says the manner in which the officers engaged the gunmen was excellent police work. Cody and Barrett reports.
The daylight shootout between police officers and 3 gunmen on Monday has left many individuals in shock. This as video footage of the ordeal make the rounds on social media. Despite some Jamaicans expressing concerns with police engaging gunmen in dense traffic, Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says he is pleased with the efforts of the police.
I think the police handle themselves extremely well. They're not putting no out risk. The people in line, but then what they're doing, they're trained. That's what, those who have seen training are allowed to, when you're almost, you're trained to shoot even in a hostage crisis. That's how well trained they are.
Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson said the force will be rolling out more quick response units in other urban areas across the country. General Anderson, who was speaking in the aftermath of Monday's police operation, which saw the killing of 2 gunmen in Kingston, praised the quick response unit, which is based on motorcycles. He said the effectiveness of units has been shown more than once in Montego Bay, where it was first launched, and also in Kingston.
Anywhere that has a heavy traffic buildup, anywhere that you require mobility and agility, motorcycle-based policing is a good model, good basis for responding to those challenges once you have heavy traffic. And we'll be doing more of it in Kingston. We're looking at Spanish Town, we're looking at Maypen and other urban centers. So it's definitely a part of the planned capacity building and rollout exercise.
General Anderson said the JCF has been working on building its capacity in the last 3 years and will continue.
The whole build out of our intelligence capability, which is partially technology and also partially our human intelligence sources, which are, we have a wide network of these. And this has all come together to assist us to deliver better policing responses. The better responses in investigations, better cases going forward to the courts with not just witness evidence, but with scientific evidence. So all of that is just building the capacity of the organization.
In the meantime, as at Sunday, May 9, more than 205 shootings have occurred in the corporate area alone. The number of murders island-wide up to last Sunday now stands at 484. 13 more people have died in comparison to the same period last year. Cody and Barrett, TVJ News.
Education Minister Favour Williams is defending the comments she made 2 weeks ago regarding teacher performance. Speaking this morning on TVJ's Smile Jamaica, the Education Minister said her comment was based on the findings of several reports by the National Education Inspectorate. Sandy Williams reports.
Greater attention will be placed on educators in the classroom, a target set by the Ministry of Education in its ongoing drive to improve outcomes and efficiency. This following a comment made by the Education Minister Favour Williams at a recent post-sectorial press briefing. Mrs. Williams had said the education sector is not producing enough high-achieving students. The comment did not go down well with the main group representing public sector teachers, the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA. In responding to the comment last week, JTA President Jasford Gabriel said the comment has only served to annoy the already restive teachers. But speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica Wednesday morning, the education minister insisted the government is not seeking to blame educators. She explained her comment was based on the findings of several reports by the National Education Inspectorate.
Of the schools that they've identified as not being satisfactory, when you look at teacher effectiveness in the classroom, that area has been unsatisfactory. So for me, looking at that data, what it says to me that I need to help our teachers to become more effective in the classroom. And that could mean spending more time, finding out what it is that they're doing in the classroom that's detracting from the time they have to spend with the students. Finding out, is it the behavioral issues that they have to deal with in the class? And if so, how can we support the teachers so that they can be in a class where students, they don't have to be dealing with behavioral issues and all kinds of other things, but they can get instead to teaching the important subjects that they need to teach and help the students to learn as much as possible.
Mrs. Williams added that the findings should be seen as a guide to steer teachers on a path that could improve students' achievement. A study conducted by the World Bank in 2014 found that Jamaican teachers spent 11% of total classroom time off task or not engaging in teaching or classroom management. 10% of off-task time was equivalent to 20 lost days in a 200-day school year. Minister Williams has also pledged to introduce character building into school curricula to address concerns about behavior.
So it's honesty. It's an appreciation for peacefulness in their communities. It's teaching them about ethics. It's teaching them about kindness and justice. And all of those over the years, it's going to take more than one, single class to teach. It's going to have to be a continual part of the curriculum all the way through school.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And Education Minister Favour Williams says more work is needed to improve schools across the board before a zoning system can be implemented. She was responding to a suggestion made by the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, president of the JTA, Jasford Gabriel, recommended that Education Ministry utilize a zoning system for students sitting the primary exit profile PEB exams. The zoning system would see students being mandated to attend secondary schools within a particular geographic region, usually within proximity of their residence.
I believe in order for people to buy in, we have got to improve the quality of all our schools so that the differences between them is not that great. Because right now, there's such a vast difference between the best versus the worst that parents gravitate towards those that are, at the top. They'd rather their children go to those schools. So we have to do some work first, I believe, before we can even open that conversation with Jamaicans about sending their children to schools that are close in the communities to where they live.
The University of the West Indies, MONA, is reporting that contributions from the Jamaican government increased in 2020. This was highlighted in its audited financial statements, which were tabled in Parliament on Tuesday. It noted that the government's contribution increased to $267 million, or 3.6% in 2020, compared to $229 million in 2019, an increase of $38 million. O'Shane Masters has more.
A few months ago, the University of the West Indies, MONA, highlighted a number of initiatives that will be implemented as it seeks to bolster its financial position. Of note, seeking to get more international students into the university and also possibly seeking to have undergraduate students paying up to 40% of their tuition while reducing the institution's expenses. This comes on the heels of the institution seeking to diversify its revenue streams. In its financial report, the University of the West Indies, MONA, noted that tuition fees from University Grants Commission programs, net of bursaries, contributed 14% to its gross revenue, a negligible increase of $5.4 million over 2019. It, however, noted that its operating cash flow strengthened to record $1.6 billion for the year, compared to $943 million in 2019. Due to the impact of the pandemic, the institution says its capital expansion programs were curtailed and reflected a drop to $495 million compared to $973 million in 2019. Meanwhile, campus bursar Catherine Park Thwaites noted that the institution's net working capital position declined by $356 million. However, the year ended in the positive with a cash equivalent balance of $1.4 billion compared to $729 million. She noted that the increase was due in part to the early receipt of government subventions. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's time now for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. Continuing the news. 6 additional deaths have been recorded from the COVID-19 virus. 3 of the deaths were recorded in Westmoreland, 2 in St. James, and 1 from Portland. The COVID-19 death toll is now 820, and 101 new cases of the virus were confirmed yesterday from 758 samples. The country's overall case count is now 46,922. The country's COVID-19 positivity rate now stands at 12.8%. In the meantime, 175 persons are hospitalized with a respiratory illness. 14 are critically ill. There are now 23,121 active cases. Opposition spokesman on transport, Mikhail Phillips, is insisting that the public transportation in the country is in a worse shape today than it was 2 years ago. Mr. Phillips, who was making his contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament last evening, said the transport sector is almost broken.
We continue to endure the chaos, the lewdness continues, robot taxis continue, the playing of loud and vulgar music continues, the JUTC is not providing an efficient and modern bus system, and so, Madam Speaker, the public passenger transport system remains disorganized, dangerous, and demeaning.
Turning specifically to the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, Mr. Phillips says the bus company is in full decline.
Heading for a catastrophic crash, which cannot be blamed on the pandemic, but rather on poor public transport policies and inept management. Madam Speaker, I have to ask a question. I have to ask whether it is the intention of the government to crash the JUTC.
Mr. Phillips says the company's revenue as well as ridership are down. He argues that despite the performance of the bus company, the management remains in place. Higher prices for fuel, reduced hours to operate their taxis due to COVID-19, just some of the challenges being faced by taxi operators across the island. But some operators in Montego Bay, St. James, are calling on the government to offer some kind of assistance. O'Shane Masters has that story.
Obey the COVID protocols. Carry 1 less passenger. The orders given by Prime Minister Andrew Holness to taxi operators as the government tries to contain the spread of the COVID-19 virus in the island. But while some of the operators are obeying the protocols, they are faced with another issue: less money in their pockets while their expenses have dramatically increased. Just last week, $3.06 was added to 87 and 90 gasoline.
More than 6 weeks straight, the gas affect me. Me can't go 2 trips a day, me make 3, sometimes 3 trips a day. This can't work.
We don't have nobody to talk to us as taxis. You know. We have tried if we come together, but it don't work. Anything we say, like nobody now listen to it.
The profit margin is cut more than by 50% because most of the money you make is they go back to just buy petrol.
They say it's unfair as they have gone almost 2 years without a fare increase, and the deplorable road conditions are costing them thousands on a daily basis. The taxi operators say they feel as if the government is not taking their plight into consideration.
It can hard to survive because a lot of people are not traveling at the moment, and with this economical hardship and the increase of the petrol, it's running us out of business.
We need to raise a fare. You get what I say? We need to raise a fare. Or if we not get a raise a fare, it has to go back down.
If we follow this, we still have to go park with car. And we can't pay insurance, tax, nothing.
In the meantime, they are calling for the reversal of a special consumption tax, SCT, on gas. Since 2019, there have been increased calls for the government to roll back the SCT on fuel, with calls from the National Council of Taxi Associations in Kota and opposition spokesman on energy, Philip Paulwell.
The tax off a gas price on. Too much tax.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Residents on the border of Clarendon and Manchester are calling on the authorities to address an area just outside Scott's Pass, which they say could cost lives if not repaired. The calls come on the heels of a recent protest over poor road condition in the area. Road fatalities and crashes have been a major concern for the National Road Safety Council for years. It's argued that most crashes are caused by human error, but in other instances, poor road condition has been blamed. Dickie is a fruit vendor who operates a stall in an area known as Whitney Turn, just outside porous Manchester at the border of Clarendon. He argues that the area is slippery when wet.
If it rains all heavy, accident, I will say one taxi crashes all day.
Repair work has begun on a section of the Scott's Pass main road, which has been a sore point for motorists in the area. Member of Parliament for Clarendon Southwestern Lothan Cousins outlined some of the areas being worked on.
From Whitney Turn through to Scott's Pass, I am told that they are going to be patching some sections of Clarendon Park this morning, leading into Scott's Pass as well. There's a very bad section close to Juicy Patties, and when you go around the corner of Scott's Pass, so I understand that they're trying to sort out those areas to ensure that there is no disruption in the flow of traffic.
The MP made mention of Whitney Turn, but he did not outline the scope of work to be done within the area. But it's hoped that resurfacing will be done. Dickie explained why it's important for the area to be addressed.
Speed, sir.
Regular speed.
Regular speed.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes 1 and 2 with speed, I don't know what's the road slippery. And by the time you get this up, you just see guys are spin so. Sometimes in a cup.
But if resurfacing of what he describes as a deadly corner is not done, he offered a suggestion.
You just do some sweet or put a warning sign up there, slippery road. As the rain fall, go caution.
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News. And for the latest on the financial scene, here's Cody and Barrett with a Business Minute.
The Business Minute, brought to you by... I'll never forget how it all started.
Digicel, made in Jamaica. There since 2001.
In the world of business, Trans-Jamaican Highway said its revenue for the January to March period fell 5% to $12 million as fewer people used its tolls because of measures to contain COVID-19. Despite the lower intake, the company returned to profitability, posting $600,000 to its bottom line, a turnaround from losses of $2 million in the same period a year ago. Grace Kennedy and Fosrich has obtained a formal order from the Supreme Court to hold their annual general meetings this year online, in part or whole, because of COVID restrictions. The companies went to the Supreme Court to get the permission in keeping with the Companies Act. Dolphin Cove has advised that due to the continued impact of the ongoing pandemic and the consequent scale-down of operations to comply with the policies to contain the outbreak of the virus, its annual report for 2020 is being delayed. It, however, says it hopes to submit the report no later than Monday, June 14, 2021, in accordance with the extension granted by the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And coming up in the business day this evening, the latest gas prices, what to expect at the pumps tomorrow. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
The Business Minute, brought to you by I'll never forget how it all started.
TVJ, made in Jamaica. They are since 2001.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at antibiotic resistance.
Say, for example, you have a urinary tract infection, and the prescription says that you ought to take it for 2 weeks. And you take it for a few days and the symptoms go away. And you are left with a situation where you do not, in fact, have any symptoms. But you have not killed the organism, and the organism stays there. And of course, become resistant to the situation. And as a result, you have to use other antibiotics that can overcome that level of resistance. So usually that bug becomes resistant in this particular individual, but it is not a resistant organism that comes out in the wider population to cause this massive antibiotic resistance and the different strains that may be killing people.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Do take the antibiotic exactly as indicated on the container. Do finish the prescription even if you begin to feel better. Don't skip doses and don't share the prescription with anyone else.
And to news and sports now, 3 finals were so far held today on the second day of the Issa Grace Kennedy's Boys and Girls Championships at the National Stadium on Wednesday. Here's Denise Walters with that report.
So far, 3 finals have been completed on day 2 of the Issa Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships ongoing at the National Stadium. Leonie Samuels of Racines captured the girls' Class 1 shot put with a throw of 13.21 meters.
I feel excited about it. My coach believed in me, my family believed in me, so I just came out here and I did it for them.
Edwin Allen's Rashida Samuels took the girls' Class 2 high jump with a mark of 1.3 meters. And in the girls' Class 4 long jump, Natrelia Campbell of Wolmer's recovered from crashing out of the girls' Class 4 70-meter hurdles to leap to 5.42 meters for gold.
What gave you the motivation, to come back and to win the long jump despite having injuries?
Well, because it's my first champs. I wanted, and long jump is like my favorite event. I wanted to come and win a medal today, which I achieved.
Only 2 more finals are left to be contested later in the day.
And that's the midday news. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.